Let's move on to the fixed income space. At the RDAS yesterday, CBN sold $299.9 million now. $300 million was offered at a stop rate of 155.71 naira to the dollar. And for more update on the Nigeria fixed income space, we'll be joined now by Steve Oshaw. He's a trader at Stanbic IBTC Global Markets. Steve, it's great to have you on the show today. Now, as I mentioned, of course, even though we had the RDAS selling CBN selling $299.9 million yesterday, we saw the naira depreciate. So good to know the reason behind that depreciation, first of all.
Morning again, and thanks for having me. I think the depreciation that you witnessed in the interbank market on the exchange was mainly on the back of slowdown in support to the currency. If you notice, before now we've seen quite a lot of sales coming from the oil companies, oil majors, selling dollars into the market. We saw an MPC last week, which actually supported the currency to the level was trading lows of 158. And after that, we've seen a drought in this supply of USD into the market, and that explains the reason why we see the currency actually depreciate a bit.
Now, of course, many people did expect that the naira will be stable this week, not only because of CBN's defensive methods, but also because of expected inflows from foreign investors who are, seeking local fixed income instruments. Now, we didn't see that happen yesterday, as you said. Do you think that this will play out in today's session?
I'm not sure that projection is actually right, because we're not expecting the auction to take place until Wednesday, which is going to be tomorrow. So if you're going to see any offshore inflows coming to the market, probably will be between Thursday and Friday, when the settlement date will actually happen. So the auction is tomorrow, like I said. We're not too sure of how much of interest will be shown by the offshore players. Until that happens, we're able to determine how much of inflows or how much of fresh money that will be coming to the system that might actually impact the liquidity in USD.
Let's move on to the T-bill space. We saw yields falling across traded maturities. There was no OMO auction yesterday. Can we expect one today?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Can we expect an OMO auction today? We didn't see any yesterday.
I'm not too sure there's going to be any OMO auction for now, probably till the next round of liquidity comes to the system, probably on Thursday, when we're expecting about over 100 billion maturity in T-bills. And the reason being that if you check the liquidity the system for a few days now, it's been over in between slightly over 300 billion.
Yeah.
And with the expectations on the NMPC remittance and RDAS volume, which has been in cycles of 300 million sales from CBN windows, I think CBN is actually expecting that the liquidity in the system will actually moderate through these outflows.
So how do you expect the T-bills market to react to that?
Well, like we've seen for the past few days, we've seen quite a lot of interest come to that space from PFAs, institutional investors, and even banks trying to take advantage of the current yields on T-bills. I think going forward with the liquidity of the system, which support that power to be able to purchase, I think we're going to see a lot of demand going to that space.
But where do you think we'll see the most demand? In which particular bill?
I think it's going to be across maturities, but for some time now we've been seeing heavy substitutions or demand coming through between the short dated papers, 91 days to 6 months.
Okay, now let's talk about the November 13 bond auction. That's of course now tomorrow. We know that the federal government will auction 65 billion naira in 3-year and 20-year bonds. So what are your expectations for that auction?
For the auctions on the bond, like you said, we're expecting 35 billion in the 3-year issuance, that's the reopening, and we're expecting another reopening of about 35 billion for the 20-year. If you check the auction, the previous auctions for the past 2 months, we've seen heavy subscriptions coming through from the PFAs, especially on the long durations. I think we expect these things to continue. We don't expect to see much of inflows coming from the offshore, because for some time now we've slowed down on on the participating in the auctions for the past few or 2 months. Like I said, I think we expect to see more of the demand coming through PFAs and few banks at the auction.
Do you think the bond market would react to that in any way in today's session?
Well, we expect to see some reactions in the secondary market. Like we witnessed yesterday, we saw about 10 to 15 basis point uptick in yield, especially on the 7 to 10-year bonds. I think at this point, we expect the market to actually moderate. The projection for the auction is supposed to be around 12.6 for the 3 years, and between 12.9 to 13 for the 20 years. So we expect markets to continue to trade around these levels, within these bands.
Okay, Steve, let's quickly talk about the AMCON bonds. And we know that some bonds are going to be maturing on the 31st of December. We also know that there are plans to fully retire the AMCON bonds from corporate. So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, from what we have in projection, we expect to see about 1.7 trillion maturing in December. But if you go back to history, I think 60 to 70% of all these bonds have actually been purchased back by CBN. So what we have maturing, or what we have left in the system as maturing, will be probably 40% of the total issuance. From the fillers we're getting from AMCON, the possibility is that they're going to pay back or retire the full amount on maturity. But again, we're actually hearing another rumor that they actually may refinance some of these bonds, some of these bonds to bills. There's nothing concrete on the desk, but these are the fillers or the rumors we're hearing in the market.